In a quiet suburban town, a routine drive home took a shocking turn when a distinguished black judge found herself pulled over by police. What started as a simple traffic stop quickly spiraled into a moment that left her questioning everything she believed about justice. Despite her calm demeanor and status as a respected figure in the community, the interaction revealed biases that no title or achievement could shield her from. As the tension rose, the judge faced accusations that seemed rooted in anything but the truth. How does someone sworn to uphold the law handle being on the other side of it? What unfolds next will challenge perceptions, ignite conversations, and remind us all that justice isn't always blind. Stay with us as we uncover the twists in this unbelievable encounter and the inspiring response that followed. You won't believe how this story ends. The judge, an accomplished woman known for her fairness and integrity, had spent years dedicating her life to upholding the very laws she now felt trapped by. That evening, as flashing blue lights lit up her rearview mirror, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as the officer approached, his tone sharp from the start. What should have been a straightforward exchange quickly turned tense. The questions weren't about her driving, but seemed to target her personally. Despite calmly providing her identification, the officer's demeanor only grew colder, and his words hinted at something deeper. A judgment based on her appearance, not her actions. Neighbors passed by, some slowing down to watch. The judge's mind raced. How could this be happening in her own community, where she thought her work and reputation spoke for themselves? But the worst was yet to come. As the officer questioned her, the judge remained composed, her voice steady but firm. She politely asked for clarification on why she was being stopped, but the response was vague and dismissive. The officer seemed more interested in probing her background than addressing any traffic violation. "Where are you headed tonight?" he asked, his tone carrying an edge that felt more accusatory than concerned. The tension deepened when another patrol car arrived, adding to the spectacle. The situation was escalating, and the judge couldn't ignore the subtle but undeniable undertones of bias. She thought about the countless cases she'd presided over, where she urged juries to set aside prejudice and focus on facts. Now, standing in the cold glow of headlights, she wondered if those same principles would apply to her. Inside the second patrol car sat a younger officer, visibly uncomfortable. He glanced between his partner and the judge, as if debating whether to intervene. Meanwhile, neighbors gathered at their windows, their curious stares amplifying the weight of the moment. Was anyone willing to step forward? The air grew heavier as the confrontation unfolded. The officer's tone became more forceful, insisting the judge step out of her car. She hesitated, not out of defiance, but from a growing sense of disbelief. Why was this happening? She had complied with every request, offered no resistance, and yet the situation felt more like an interrogation than a routine stop. The younger officer finally stepped out of his car, his hesitation clear. He approached his partner quietly, whispering something inaudible. The older officer dismissed him with a wave, doubling down on his demands. The judge, now outside her car, stood tall despite the growing crowd and the humiliation she felt. She calmly repeated her request for clarification. "What exactly have I done wrong?" she asked, her voice steady but firm. The officer's response shocked everyone. He reached for his handcuffs, saying, "You're resisting." Gasps rippled through the small audience, and the younger officer stepped forward, his face etched with conflict. The judge's heart raced as she realized this was no longer about a traffic stop. It was about something far deeper. Before the officer could snap the handcuffs on, a voice called out from the crowd. "Stop, I'm recording this." A neighbor had stepped onto their porch, phone raised, the red light blinking as evidence that everything was now being documented. The officer froze for a moment, glancing toward the camera, but his expression quickly shifted to irritation. "Step back, ma'am. This doesn't concern you," he barked, but the woman stood her ground. The judge, still calm but now visibly frustrated, turned to the woman. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice carrying a weight of relief and defiance. The younger officer seized the moment, stepping between his partner and the judge. "Sir, maybe we should reassess," he said, his voice trembling slightly. But just as it seemed the situation might de-escalate, a voice crackled through the older officer's radio. It was a call from the station, a starting update that changed everything. His face paled, and his grip on the handcuffs faltered. Whatever he'd just heard wasn't part of the plan. Everyone watching could sense the shift, but no one, not even the judge, could guess what was coming next. The older officer hesitated, his hand dropping from the cuffs. His partner leaned in to ask what was happening, but he didn't answer. Instead, he took a step back, eyes darting nervously toward the judge. The crackling voice on the radio repeated itself, loud enough for those nearby to catch a few words. "Judge, mistaken identity, stand down immediately." A hush fell over the scene as the realization dawned on everyone. The judge wasn't just another driver. She was someone of significant standing, and the station had just confirmed it. The neighbor with the phone edged closer, still recording, while whispers rippled through the small crowd. But before anyone could process the shift, the judge spoke up, her voice firm and commanding. "This isn't just about me," she said, looking directly at the officer. "It's about how many others you've treated this way, people without a title to protect them." The younger officer stepped forward, visibly shaken. "She's right," he admitted, his voice breaking. "This isn't right." His words landed like a hammer, shocking everyone, including his partner. The older officer, now visibly flustered, muttered an apology before retreating to his car, but the judge wasn't finished. She turned to the woman with the camera and the neighbors who had gathered. "Keep recording," she said. "This needs to change." The crowd erupted in quiet support as the judge got back into her car. But as she drove away, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, their resolve for her, was just the beginning of a much bigger fight. As the judge drove away, the weight of the encounter lingered, but so did a sense of purpose. She'd have faced injustice firsthand, a painful reminder of the prejudice so many endure daily. That night, she made a decision. This moment wouldn't end at the side of the road. The next morning, she reached out to local leaders, community activists, and even the younger officer who had taken a stand. Together, they began working on initiatives to address systemic issues within law enforcement and create spaces for honest conversations about bias and accountability. The video from the neighbor quickly gained traction, sparking outrage, but also hope as people rallied behind the judge's call for change. For her, it wasn't about anger but action. She knew the road ahead would be long, but this moment proved something powerful. Even in the face of injustice, courage and solidarity can spark a movement.